we will have Sir Jose to lead us for today's topic, human deification. It's a very interesting topic. So maybe, do you need share for the topic today for the reading?
Yes, you can share your screen if you need to, Joe. Or I'll share first for the reading. You're muted. I cannot hear you.
Yes, please share the reading from your end.
Okay.
I would like to uh, request, according to appearance on my screen, to read the first and second paragraph. May I assign it to Mr. Jerome Tan? Are you okay, Jerome? First and second.
Okay, thank you, Amitofo. Good evening, everyone. Uh, human deification. Every country has some form of local belief in gods or deities, known as folk religions. Moreover, these communities also believe in some international or global religion, known as world religions. World religions are not bound to a single country or community. They are global, as the concept religion without borders. Currently, world religions include Buddhism, Catholicism, Christianity, Islam, Judaism, Taoism, and Confucianism. To be known as a world religion, it needs to be recognized and accepted worldwide. On the other hand, cults that stem from other religions cannot sustain themselves for long. Sooner or later, they scatter and collapse.
Thank you, Jerome. May I ask Luisa to read the next two paragraphs, beginning from the belief of most folks.
Uh, the belief of most folk religions surrounds a god or a deity. Some people even believe in immortals, fox spirits, ghosts, and monsters, but none of these are widely recognized and are arguably the creation of a numbered few to fulfill the needs of humanity. For example, a dispute arose and the police were called to mediate between two parties. However, one party felt a lack of justice in the mediator, so he built a temple for Tu Ti Kong, god of earth, to preside over the mediation. For this person, Tu Ti Kong represents the police station, and the deity himself will rule with justice. Or for those who lost in court cases and felt wrong, they would build a temple for Chen Huansheng, god of a city. For the just and unbiased, Chen Huangsheng will oversee the ruling.
Thank you, Luisa. May I ask Cheryl C. to read the next two paragraphs?
Yes, Naomi Tofu. It can be inferred from these examples that people can devise their own religions based on their needs. For example, farmers believed in Shenong, the god of agriculture. Constructors believed in Lupan, the patron god of builders. And the businessman believed in Wankong, the god of wealth. The deifications of worship of many divine beings began this way. Some people worship natural phenomena. This lightning, thunders, clouds, and rainfall became the deities they revere and fear. Some worship nature, believing in mountains, rivers, and the earth. In some cases, people build ancestral shrines to commemorate great emperors or heroes of the past. Even ordinary citizens who made small contribution to an area are um, defied and worshipped by locals as an expression of gratitude. Therefore, rather than the gods creating the world as believed by many religions, it could be said that it is human beings who created the gods.
Thank you, Cyril. Lilian, would you read the next two paragraphs?
Yes, thank you, Joseph. However,
Thank you.
Buddhist belief is different. Shakyamuni Buddha, the founder of Buddhism, is not a god but a human being. He was born in Kapilavastu, India, and his parents were King Suddhodana and Queen Maya. There are historical records of his life in the royal palace, including his practice of austerities. After many years of diligent spiritual cultivation and austerities, he awakened to the truth. Being completely awakened, his mind is as vast as the universe, and his lifespan as immeasurable as time. Transcending time and space, the Buddha teaches sentient beings, with exceptional case, ease and awakening. The Buddha differs from a deity in that he cannot grant wishes. However, he teaches the true Dharma of causes, conditions, and effects. The Buddha has no power to punish. He teaches that each is responsible for their actions. He is an awakened being, as such that transcends all religions and deities. He transforms and educates humans with true Dharma instead of granting safety, happiness, wealth, and honor.
Thank you, Lilian. Is Sally here? Would you like to read the next last two paragraphs? Sally? Or maybe let me call on Jenny. Can you please read the last two paragraphs?
Buddhist faith in the traditional sense means to respect the Buddha and believe in his virtues, existence, and the benefits of his teachings. Today's humanistic Buddhism is no different. Therefore, if one believes in Buddhism, then one must return to the original intents of the Buddha. The Buddha did not create humanity, and neither did humans create the Buddha. Everyone is subject to the consequences of their actions, and the responsibility of cause and effect lies in no other. As the teaching says, rely on the self, rely on the Dharma, and rely on nothing else. This is the highest principle of faith in Buddhism.
Thank you, everyone. Let me share. How do I do that, Erwin?
Click on the share screen.
And then one participant.
You have to click on the green button itself.
Okay. Okay. Okay, good. Okay. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, good. Let me see. Okay. Human deification, as the title of today's topic, suggests the making of a man or woman a god or a divine being. This act, without exception, is, you will agree, a creation by man as well. Deification is derived from the word deus, which is the Latin term for God. To deify then means to accord someone or something with the attributes of a god. Most religions have a concept of a god becoming man or vice versa, except perhaps Judaism and Islam. These religions don't adhere to a practice of the god becoming man or man becoming God. As in our readings before, there were so many gods in the folk religions, from the god of the earth or from another, how do you call it, the other gods as well. Well, the most famous human being who was deified was Jesus Christ, at least well known in the Christian world. The deification of man, however, may not be limited to the Christian tradition. In ancient Japan, the emperors were of divine descendants of the goddess Amaterasu. She is the Japanese sun goddess, daughter of creator, deities, and central to the Shinto religion. It is from her the Japanese nobility claims descent and their divine right to use. Hirohito was such a descendant. He was still the emperor uh, during the World War II, but he gave up his divinity because people were willing, or the Japanese people were really willing to die for him. If you've heard of the kamikaze, they inflicted much damage to the forces of the American allies because they dove their airplanes into the battleships and caused much damage. Hirohito had to give up and relinquish his claim to divinity because after bombing Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The emperors of China were sons of heaven since the Qin dynasty up to 1912. For the Chinese people at the time, the emperor was the god of heaven, the last of which was Puyi, who was stripped of his throne as a result of the Chinese Revolution. He was imprisoned and made to do menial works like sewing, as you can see in the picture, uh, from son of heaven to a prisoner doing some domestic works. As I was looking at, well, of course, where you usually find it in Google, the other Chinese deities. Most Chinese houses would probably have this one, statues of figures representing happiness, prosperity, status and authority, and health and longevity. This was interesting. There are some groups in China that consider many gods, including Kuan Yin and Buddha's gods. Then one of the major religions is Hinduism. Still again, you can see a figure on the right side of the picture is probably another god. Maybe Vishnu or Shiva, I don't know. I'm not familiar with Hinduism. And these are their main beliefs: karma, dharma. And now I can understand the root of Buddhism seems to be Hinduism, because we're here it's terms which are familiar for us studying Buddhism. But maybe the venerables will be able to fine-tune or distinguish how is Hinduism different from Buddhism, except for the belief in deities. That's the only difference, but maybe that's another story, another study. Well, this is interesting. I discovered that there are 330 million gods in Hindu religion. That's a lot, really, really a lot. Islam, if you see this crescent moon and the star, uh, most likely it's going to be the Islamic religion. Their God's name is Allah, who is the creator of and master of all. Muhammad was the prophet. The pillars of Iman, or the faith: belief in oneness of Allah, belief in prophets that Allah is God in his books, belief in the angels, belief in life after death, and on the day of judgment. Belief in takdir. This is interesting because there is belief in the predetermination of things. It indicates that everything that's happening here has already been planned in the heavens. Of course, this six-pointed star can only be Israel. This is monotheistic. They believe in one God and creator. Started with Abraham, which is also in the Islam, Abraham also, but it's named Ibrahim. They have the same roots. Of course, uh, the Judaism continued after Abraham and then to the prophets, which is Moses, where there was a story about Moses receiving the 10 Commandments from God himself. So, okay. This one is, what else? Looks like Egyptian. She was a major goddess in ancient Egyptian religion whose worship spread throughout the Greco-Roman world. She was considered the divine mother of the Pharaoh, rulers of Egypt. Egyptian pharaohs were kings of ancient Egypt and were considered gods by their culture. The Egyptians believed that when the pharaoh died, he would continue to lead them in the next life, which is why his burial was grand and completed to perfection. This is what you see when they dig up the pyramids in Egypt. Here's another religion, an ancient religion, the Greek and Roman mythology. Gods are represented by men and women. The most powerful of them was the Greek Zeus, or Jupiter in the Roman edition. Hera, aside from being the wife of Zeus, was the goddess of marriage, family, and health. In the Roman edition, she is called Juno. Poseidon was the god of the seas, or Neptune in the Roman mythology. And this is Athena, the goddess of wisdom. Her Roman equivalent is called Minerva. Then you have Ares, the god war, or Mars in the Roman edition. There are 12 of the major gods, and a host of other lesser gods, maybe a dozen more. In the Philippines, we have our own folk religion. This is the Bathala or Bathalang May Kapal. Bathala is local term for God. And they also have gods for the underground as well as for the gods in the air. And they have names, Ulilang Kaluluwa and Galang Kaluluwa, or the winged wanderer. Local Filipinos have their own deified personalities. Would you believe our own national hero is also revered by God as God by certain sects called Rizalists. They believe in the divinity of Jose Rizal, and some really believe that he is God himself. These are some of the groups in the lower screen. You usually see them during December 30, or which is celebrated as Rizal Day, or on June 19 in remembering the birth anniversary of Jose Rizal. But this is not seen here in Cebu. It's probably done in Calamba, where the birthplace of Rizal. Claiming to be the appointed son of God, Pastor Apollo Cabuloy is the founding leader and executive pastor of the Kingdom of Jesus Christ, the name above every name incorporated, a very quaint name. He is believed to be the spiritual advisor of President Duterte. So, what makes a man seek for a higher and powerful being? Attempts to rationally explain belief in deities extend all the way back to ancient Greece. The Greek philosopher Democritus argued that the concept of deities or the idea of deities arose when human beings observed natural phenomena such as lightning, solar eclipses, and the changing of the seasons. It could only be a very powerful being that's able to make these things happen. A tendency to believe in deities and other supernatural beings may be an integral part of the human consciousness. Children are naturally inclined to believe in supernatural entities such as gods, spirits, and demons, especially when there's a very loud thunder and they cower in fear and seek protection from their parents. Stories of encounters with supernatural beings are especially likely to be retold, leading to the idea of leaving offerings to the gods and praying to them for assistance, ideas that are seen in all cultures around the world. Lonely and fearful societies tend to invent wrathful, violent, submission-seeking deities, while happier and secure societies tend to invent loving, non-violent, and compassionate deities. Folk religions have existed since time immemorial before the mainstream religions have escaped and spread. Ancient peoples have been engaged in practices that tend to ask for favors or to appear what they believe were supernatural forces that has control over their lives from domestic affairs, hunting, to wars among tribes. Before Christianity came, they were usually referred to as practicing paganism. Some of the symbols can be seen in the following. The more organized one, meaning those who have the means and resources, intellectual or financial, to promote or proselytize certain class of people, have grown so much that in our readings, they have become religions without borders. The more prominent ones are Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, and Hinduism. Let's regress a bit and review the term deism, being derived from the Latin word deus. The Greek etymological equivalent is theos, from which word is theism is derived. They are almost similar in the sense that they believe in the existence of a supreme being or great architect of the universe, or whatever fancy name they can invent. Atheism is the opposite of the terms above. In the broadest sense, it is the absence of belief in the existence of the deities or even the rejection of the belief that any deities exist. Here's an interesting term, agnosticism. Is the view that the existence of God or the supernatural is unknown or unknowable, that human reason is incapable of providing sufficient rational grounds to justify either the belief that God exists or the belief that God does not exist. Now, may I ask you, would you classify Buddhism? How would you classify Buddhism as a spiritual practice? Could, could Buddhism be classified as atheism? Any volunteer? Would you consider Buddhism as atheistic, that does not believe in God? Or it's none any of those?
I think for me, I think Buddhism is not atheism. They do believe in the existence of God, but it's just that God doesn't have really control as we have the control in our lives compared to how people believe that everything is in God's plan. So that's how I believe in Buddhism. But we cannot really depend everything is all in us. So the influence of God may be minimal compared to what we what how the world is going in. I think that's how I believe it. I don't think I believe that there is a God, and maybe even of course he's a higher being than being human, but it's somebody I won't even try to offend, because somehow God does have powers and things like that. But yeah, I do believe there is a God, but I don't think God won't be able to help me with my karma. If there's any things that I do, I don't think God will be able to help me. That's how I believe it. Though. Thank you.
That's okay. That's okay. When I asked my sister, who is a very close Catholic, she was a missionary for quite some time, based in Taiwan. And I told her, I think I'm going to be a Buddhist. And you know what she said? That's okay. It's a lifestyle. It's not a religion. So, okay. So I have no problem with that. So, but what you discover, Buddhism says you cannot be Catholic or you cannot be Christian, or it doesn't say you cannot believe in God. But I think Buddhism is very silent about that. Well, anyway, any other comments?
I'd like to make a comment, Joe.
Yes, please.
Buddhism is not atheism because of the Dharma realms. You know, you have the realm of the hell, the six Dharma realms, and one of them is the realm of the gods. But Buddhism does not focus on gods. It focuses particularly our practice of humanistic Buddhism. It focuses on humanism, on the human and how a human can transcend his humanity and attain perfection. So in terms of a strict definition of atheism, Buddhism is definitely not atheism.
I don't think it can also be considered as agnosticism, because it says here you cannot fathom the supernatural or unknowable, incapable of being knowing. It's like a very uh, restricted knowledge only for maybe for the Buddha, who has a very deep it's very deep knowledge. His knowledge is as vast as the ocean. So, well, if it's a religion, how would you really classify? Well, these are terms only, you know, deism, atheism, agnosticism. I don't know other terms. Maybe one of those is just plain Buddhism. You have deism, you have atheism, and then you have Buddhism. Now, we can leave it at that. We don't have to argue with that, because I'm sure the Buddha would be more concerned on what, like Odd says, is humanism. So let's probably leave it at that. But any other comments would be most welcome. Well, let us see. The major religions that have great influence in today's world is, you will note that most of the slides that I have shown you have human or other figures representations, except perhaps Judaism and Islam. Christians, we have Jesus Christ. Hinduism, they have Vishnu, Shiva, and so on. Islam is none. Judaism is none. Buddhism, of course, we have the Buddha, Kuan Yin, and other Buddhas. Okay. Okay. You must understand that for Muslims or Islam, it would be sacrilegious to even paint your concept of Allah in Islam. There is really no, it's against their practice to even try to present a picture of a God. For them, God is just some kind of powerful energy, and it's too very ungodlike if you try to give a picture of it. In Judaism, the word God is practically ineffable, meaning that which you can hardly pronounce without being irreverent. You probably have encountered the word Yahweh. That's what the Jewish calls their God, but it's spelled as YW YHWH. So that's how it's spelled. So you can hardly pronounce it. But the three other religions, have human faces or some kind of visual representations, whether real or imagined. Why is that? Is it because man or woman needs someone, or a woman needs someone, or something that that he or she can relate to and make it more realistic or achievable? Any comments on that? Is much fun or to have faith into something if they can have a picture of what they're praying to.
Mm,
The pictures you're absent. Yes, go ahead.
Joe, I'd like to
Any
comment that
comment?
okay. My comment on the list that you presented here is that there are only two historical depictions here. Like in Christianity, Jesus Christ is a historical image, and so he's depicted. You have painters; he's depicted in art, and painters have artists have depicted him from you know from from the early stages of art, and also Buddhism also Buddha is a historical figure, so you definitely will have an image of the Buddha. And although he is depicted in it slightly differently by different cultures, like in maybe in you see little differences between the depictions of Buddha in Theravada and in Mahayana. But because he's a historical figure, he can actually be depicted, and his representation is the human figure that he was, and so is with Christianity. But with Hinduism, these are conceptual, and the way I understand Hinduism is that you're right, you have 330 million gods in Hinduism, but I asked one of the people who helped, one of my friends who helped me with designing costumes for Siddhartha at one point. She's Hindu. Her name was Bhavna. So I asked her, Bhavna, why do you have so many deities, so many gods and goddesses in Hinduism? Wouldn't it confuse you which god you would revere, which goddess you would pay homage to? And she said that her answer was 330, well, uh, something like this: 330 million gods in Hinduism, but each god represents a facet of one god. So it's like a diamond with thousands, a lot of facets in it, but it's one diamond. So the Lakshmi is a representation of the female fertility, so and so. And so it's easier for human beings to relate to images that are also representative of humanity, so but in Hinduism you even have Ganesh, which is half elephant and half human. But most of the deities represented are human like and anthropomorphic. Perhaps this is because it's easier to relate to them, and it's easier to visualize them as compared to having an image of God, a godlike image, as a just light or energy or something that you create in your mind, and maybe one or two or a few people can get that idea, but the majority will not, because the human mind can comprehend um, a person more than an abstract idea. Does it make sense? That's my 2 cents on why there's always a representation of a human-like image. And then to recap, in the list that you gave, the two historical images that's in the list were Jesus Christ and the Buddha.
Oh, thank you, Odds. That was a very nice sharing. And I it actually cleared some of my difficulties in to get to the bottom of it. But here the Chinese deities, I don't know if these are real persons, but they are presented as human beings. You can see this old man with a beard, man with a black beard as well, and these things. And the other gods here, you have a god that is the god of war, medicine god, of course, Kuan Yin, peace, and so on. So, uh, are these creations? This is not based on historical, is it? Maybe our Chinese friends can
Um,
maybe they're
I like
more
this comment
familiar.
like that. Yeah. I think some of them may be historical or they may be myths also, but okay. This is my understanding, and correct me if everyone thinks if I may have say mistaken, but I'll probably get ahead to with the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas if ever. I think some of the part that how we see that example actually the figures of the bodhisattvas that we see Kuan Yin or Asitagarbha and even like Maitreya. I think some of them are based on actual historical figure that carries the personification, the virtues of these Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. So example, I think if I'm not mistaken, Sita Garba, who is the Earth Sword Bodhisattva, originally um, the, the looks that we see, the statue of the Earth Sword Bodhisattva, who is a bhikshu, originated from, he's a prince from Korea, if I'm not mistaken, who came down to China. And it was from there that he went to the Yohasan and that's where he built his temple. But but I think it's basically because of the virtues that comes out that people think of him as the great Earth Star Bodhisattva. So I think that's how they got the some of the figures to be basically because of the person. Maybe Kuan Yin is because uh, uh, he's like a personification of compassion. So that's the reason why originally, from what I know, is Kuan Yin is supposed to be usually in a male form, but because um, the reason why we see Kuan Yin now as a female form because he's like a mother. So during the life in China before females, they really have a hard time. So it takes another female to associate with them, to help them, to hear for their cries. So that's why in also the Chinese religion is also in Taoism is the goddess of mercy. So that's how I understand. Usually, some of the things that we see from the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas is based on their virtues. So we see Samantha Batra, who is the universal practice of Bodhisattva. He rides she rides upon the elephant, which is it's very strong and steady because that's how we practice Buddhism supposedly. Manjusri is the wisdom, so he rides on upon a lion, so like the king of like the Dharma, he roars. So all evil things or anything that is deviant, he gets scared of him. So that's how my understanding of why we have the figures of the Bodhisattva and Buddhas and Bodhisattva figures based on this kind of ideas, if ever, or virtues that they represent. Let me talk.
Thank you, Jerome. I'm glad I asked these questions. To be honest, I have a very shallow knowledge of Buddhism. So when I take this up, I really want to solicit answers from what I want to know. So thank you for your sharing with us. Well, any more sharing? Well, in almost all conventional religions that has human representation or representation in like Odd said, gar, garness, it's half human, half animal. But usually The God-man nature suffers death or termination and usually reappear on a trip to heaven or another world. For instance, Christians await the second coming of Jesus Christ. He died on the cross, and they said that he resurrected and went to heaven, and the Christians now awaits for the second coming of Christ. Uh, well, like Jerome said earlier, uh, Kuan Yin used to be, I know, instead of becoming a Buddha, I decided to be a Bodhisattva to, you know, to be a source of compassion. And also I cannot pronounce the name, Kitsigarba, okay, who decided, from what we know, is the one who's in hell and supposed to save those. I have scant knowledge about these things yet at this moment. But when I ask, when Buddha when he died, I think I asked Erwin, where did Buddha go? What does it mean to go to nirvana? Or how do you call it? Pure Land or Westland? I can't really figure out which is which actually. So when Buddha died, and what happened to him? Is he somewhere in the Christian concept of he's in heaven or what is nirvana? Can anyone share with us and fill in on what I do not know yet at this stage?
I was wondering what's my answer to you at that time because maybe it's wrong.
That's okay.
What did I answer to you?
I think you said like he's just part of an energy out there, probably like that, something like that. I'm not sure. Is that a possible answer?
I
At
think
least that's how I understood it.
I think Buddha is neither here or nor there,
Neither near.
and it could be everywhere. And Buddha can be also
Nowhere.
in the heart. Here or there or nothing at all. I mean, it could be also, it's in Buddha is also in our heart.
Yeah. I
He's
remember that
everywhere and
song.
he's nowhere.
Luisa, there's a song that Master Yung Kwang wrote, right?
Yes, yes.
Photo, photo
Oh,
ni
great
Sainali.
Buddha,
Yeah.
where
So
are
where are
you
you
now?
now? I
You are not here.
Here you are not
not
there,
there.
right? And then,
Okay.
so where do you find him? In your heart. So if
Oh,
he's in your
where
heart,
are
you see
you
him
now?
everywhere. You see him
Yeah,
in the sunset. You see him
in the
in a
grass and the
storm.
flowers,
You see, yeah.
in
So
the
so
tree.
I guess that's
Buddha's
what
everywhere.
parinirvana means. You become one with everything.
Yeah.
You're not there, but you're there. So I don't know.
You're one with everything. You're not here. You
Only
are not
present,
there.
but not there also.
Yeah, the idea there is once you are reborn as something, whether you human, heavenly beings, hell beings, whatever, you're subject to this life and therefore death. So death is also suffering, whether you are even if you are a heavenly being, when you die, that's still suffering. So the Buddha basically he's able to cut off all kinds of suffering. So that's why we say that the Buddha is no longer reborn, so that he doesn't have to go through the suffering of death. So where is he? He's everywhere. So that's
Birthless and
The word itself, I think,
birthless and
I know,
deathless.
Erwin, the word I think as best described where the Buddha is, it's liberation.
Yeah, he's liberated from the suffering of
Yeah.
samsara. So it's kind of weird because we always think of life. That's what we see, right? And we see physical body as part of life. So it's kind of difficult to imagine life without this physical body, right? So the
Yes.
Buddha is life. That's it.
If you find Buddha, try to find Buddha. You cannot find him. You'll find him. It's in the Diamond Sutra. I think
Yeah,
it's in
it's
the
being deviant if you try to look for Buddha. You're going the wrong path already.
Mhm. Okay, thank you. Thank you for those good shares.
Maybe Pastor Yoli has some additional inputs on that regards, so that
Yes,
people
Venerable.
will be enlightened.
Okay. Um, I also recently just read try to figure out how is it to attain nirvana. Basically, from the text, then we can understood as is already get rid of the suffering. Um, it is seem like you know I see an example from Venerable Master Shin in his books written said it is like mm, the emptiness, like the water. The water itself is like the seawater. It is peace, but what make it wave is the wind, right? So if you if without the wind, then no wave, and it is like a silent moment. So the nirvana is kind of the silent, and then the wind is like the defilement that scattered around us that make us have this affliction. We have the ignorance because of the winds. So the nirvana scenario is like it's really peace, bliss, and if in the ram we said it no more going to rebirth, it is already no need to go through all the suffering like birth, old age, sickness, and death. Already, it is already out of that status. So when we go back, because it seemed like it's very how to say it is like how is this 境界 the how so example in our daily life we can also experience nirvana. For example, you have stomach ache, you have stomach ache, and then you run out to CR, and then when the moment you relieved, it's like, oh, nirvana. You already attend the nirvana. So the kind of you know the relief, no 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 more defilement na. Get out of the suffering na.
Okay.
Thank you, Shifu. That's a very enlightening. So you
That's a
experience
wonderful
nirvana.
nirvana.
Wonderful. But from what Shifu said, I realized that you can experience nirvana, small forms of nirvana every day. So that moment where you don't experience suffering, where you're tranquil and you're at peace and calm, that's a form of nirvana.
Yes. And also, I would like to add on what Jerome has shared just now about the four bodhisattvas. I'm very glad that he used the four bodhisattvas to. It basically is also the representative of Buddhism, the four great bodhisattvas, Number one is the Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva, where we can see in Chuan Temple the white statue that is Guan Yin Posa. She represents compassion. So in the sutra, um, it's written she has he or she has 33 transformation, 32 transformation. The 33 is us. We are the 33. We are the Bodhisattva. So how he transform or how she transform is according to what the people needs. So when the soldier hear her, so she will transform to the soldier. When the kid need her, so he will transform to be a kid. When a woman, when a king or anyone need, then she will just transform to the particular person to help the person. So secondly is the Zhi. Zhi represent wisdom. Manjusri Bodhisattva sit on the lion. It's not for people to be fears of the lion, but the lion is actually represented like from the Buddha when he came down, when he preached the Dharma. In Chinese we call 狮子吼, is like preaching the
Lion's roar.
Dharma. Sorry?
Lion's roar.
Right?
狮子吼.
Right. So it's like preaching the Dharma and represent the wisdom. Then the third is Samendra Bodhisattva, is the action carried with the elephant. The six tongues of elephants also represent the wisdom and action at the same time. So the strength that we learn to act. And then the fourth is the Sitigaba Bodhisattva, the Great Vow Bodhisattva that you can see from the Tichang Tian. Tichang is the Chinese name. And then the what do you call Sitigaba Bodhisattva, the Great Vow that you see is to help. It's not there to scare the sentient being in the hells, but then he has the great vow to empty, to help the sentient being to get out of the hell. So imagine you are also the Sitigaba Bodhisattva. Can you make a vow that saying, I want this prison, no more prisoner in the prison. I just want to help them. That means you need to help, to assist, to guide everyone to do good so that no crimes will happen. No one will caught by the police. Okay, so uh, so the four bodhisattva, and then for those like the statue from the left side, statue of Fulu Shou, and the right pictures that we can see the many gods, the Chinese god, that actually from I think from the Chinese history, like many dynasties. And I'm not really sure about Chinese history, so I cannot really explain and how is it goes. But as what we return from the book, like the text today, like what Venerable Master Shingins mentioned, the gods can be created by the human because of the human needs. When he needs the God to help, because he has no one to ask, so he just create a God so that he can ask. And it seems like it's a faith to, sometimes we have no one to ask or no one to trust, but maybe we just kneel down to talk to the air, talk to the trees. So it seems like someone or something that we can rely on. It kind of to console our heart to see a hope, so that they create something. Or like maybe one of the guard, Quanti God, the first one on the right
This one?
image, yeah, yes.
The Kwanti, the
Uh,
god of war.
yeah. In our Buddhism, it is one of our Dharma protector. But maybe in the Chinese history, he was one of the very a brave soldier that helped many people. And maybe after he passed away, then people, just to respect him, and then uh, make his statue to remember at the same time that the spirit of him, we want to continue to, learn from him. So that's what also he created as a god in the Chinese culture. And after mm, Buddhism spread from India to Chinese, it mixed with Chinese culture. Many things happen, not because of the culture only, the emperor and many things that make Buddhism and the Confucian or many already mixed. Because also some of the understanding of the sutra. Uh, the sutra is the origin of the sutra is not from Chinese. They've been translated. So many things happen. So actually, many things been have to be considered um, before we can, just uh, see the whole picture. Yeah. Thank you. I'm sorry about that. I really have limited knowledge regards the Chinese history.
So how about because I understand that the Buddha specifically mentioned not to make images of him. So I understand that that's how the symbolism, like the Dharma wheel or the footprint, came about initially. But why did it end up with so many images also ultimately?
Um, I from the sutra, um, I also read about, because the Buddha, he he went he went up to preach the Dharma one time for few months, and then he thought that he want the disciples, maybe we as a human, we have the comfort zone, no? So once we are already in the comfort zone, we already get used to, oh, okay, it's like that, it's like that. So he's thinking that I must let my disciple to have the desire to be diligent, to know what is the Dharma, to to be more diligent in the Buddhist study. So because every day when you see the person, you will not feel appreciate. So one day he just went up to the celestial realm to preach the Dharma, and he didn't inform anyone, including Ananda. So after a few months, the disciple realized that no one can look for him. And then at the time also, Buddha, he also has supernature power. And he said, okay, maybe now is the time. So while in these 3 months, no one can look for him, and then the employer, the disciples miss him so much. So they start to create the statue. Now we have phone, we can take picture. Last time don't have phone. So they just make the statue. It's a form like to memory, because I miss this person, so I make the form of to create the statue. So after that, after a few months, then Buddha knows that the disciples, they are looking for him already. So he give the signal to let the one of the disciple know that he's there in the uh, another realm, and he will be back to the human realm after 7 days. And there, this is what I read from the sutra that I knew. So there is how the Buddha statue form.
So in short, people cannot help it. We have to see things. We have to see
Yes,
the Buddha in a physical form.
in a physical form. Yes, if like now, already more than 1 year, we have a Zoom meeting, study group or any activities. We already get used to, aside from reading, then we will see the PowerPoint presentation to to help us to understand. Oh, what is it? What is Joel just mentioned? So we seem like, oh, I missed that, but then at least I still have the wording to catch up. So yeah, what Arun said is right. So maybe we also have to see things, no, the statue, to make us remember. And then, oh, sometimes we see this, or sometimes we hear about this music. Oh, we remember something. It is all the consciousness that we remember. We talk about the eight consciousness. The eight consciousness is like saving the data sensory. When we see this, then we remember what is Buddha's teaching.
Okay, back to you, Joe.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the confusion I just discovered today. No, yeah, just kidding. Anyway,
By the way, Joey, but I think some of the things that you're saying that some of the people here, they're actually people from historical event. Like Quan Ti is Quan Yi from the Three Kingdoms. During the Three Kingdoms, he's one of the heroes there. So these are some of the personification of people, scholars that did a lot of virtuous things, and after that they get deified into deities in the Chinese culture.
And also thanks Jose for the presentation on different religions. I also learned many things today. Thank you.
okay. Here's another observation I make to help clear things about also my lack of deeper understanding. Uh, why there's a myth or a legend that Jesus Christ was a Buddha who learned Buddhism in, I think, Nepal. Assuming he did, and he probably came up with a religion that is have a shorter duration, like from birth to death. Probably in the olden times, you probably live up to 200 years, 500 years. But nowadays, it's probably 75 from birth to death. Now, he probably realized or that people would tend to adhere to a religion which is usually measurable in a lifetime. Of course, it's for most people, one lifetime is from birth to death, except for Buddhism, it's a cycle of life, isn't it? But Jesus Christ probably said, if you lead a pious life, one may earn trip to heaven right away. But in Buddhism, if I'm not mistaken, again, this is my limited knowledge, just to go through halfway, you need at least 3 kalpas for a place in nirvana. I don't know if that is true. 1 kalpa is how many years? 3.2 billion years, is it? I don't know. It's going to be a long, arduous trip. So probably, Christianity or Islam can be more attractive instead of Buddhist, which would take me 10 billion years before I reach heaven. What is 1 kalpa? It's about 3.2 billion years. Luisa?
I am not familiar with the measurement. They have different kinds of measurements. Even the Buddhist sutras, they have different measurement.
Very, very long time.
84,000 I don't know. There are different. I don't know. I still have to read on that.
Joe, I think you're referring to the three Mahakalpas, where how long it took for the Buddha to was it to finally become a Buddha? perfect merits and
Yes.
wisdom. Yeah, I think that's what you're referring to. Whereas in and but that means, because that is based on a view of life as cyclic. So you can have multiple lives and you can have multiple chances. What's depends on the person really, because you're saying that um it's easier for someone to understand Christianity because it's a linear view of life, beginning and end in one lifetime, compared to a cyclic view of life, which is unending, continuous, and yeah. So, but I think it really depends, because when I started as I was raised in a Catholic school, in a Jesuit school. So my view of life was especially coming from a Catholic family, my view of life not cyclic but linear. So, um, but once I was I learned about the cyclic view of life, I understood what I liked about it was that I understood that you are given chances to redeem yourself, to correct your mistakes, and to refine yourself. So coming from a rough stone, you can become a diamond. You can be refined and refined and refined. You have so many chances to perfect yourself. So that for me was much more hopeful, rather than trying to achieve everything in one lifetime. For me, that would be impossible to perfect yourself in one lifetime. I don't think it's achievable now that I have learned of now that my view of life is cyclic. But yeah, so I get it. It depends on the person, whether you find it easier to find your heaven, to achieve your heaven in one lifetime, or to achieve your heaven, or in Buddhist terms, your nirvana, in multiple lives, in great many mahakalpas. So mahakalpas is just, I think it's a euphemism of multiplicity of the so many of myriad, endless cyclical chances for you to achieve perfection. In contrast to the linear perception, which only gives you one chance at perfection. So, one chance or multiple chances? I choose multiple chances because the chances are better. That's how I see it. Thank you.
Millions of kalpas.
Can I add to what you said a while ago?
Yeah.
And I think deciding on what kind of life you want to be is now. It's this life. You don't really have to wait for the next life or things like that. You can be a Buddha now, just how you want it to be. So it's always a start. You might be. It's just a matter of time. So I think you just, as long as you keep on doing good things, doing the three acts of kindness, and you just keep on doing it continually. It's, you can do it. You can achieve it in this lifetime. But it's all I think everything is basically much in the heart, how you wanted to help other sentient beings and try to attain Buddhahood. Of course, the whole thing, if you say, I think it's just you say kalpas and things like that, because at the end of it all, we thought Sakyamuni Buddha, he attained Buddha, although they said, of course, he went through a lot of many past lives trying to achieve it, but he did it in this lifetime. And then of course there's the Mahayana teaching. For me, I believe in the Pure Land teaching also. So there's another hope also in the going to the Pure Land also. Practicing with Amitabha's, going to Amitabha's Pure Land. So that's another sect in the Buddhist belief also. So I don't know, Master, how do you think about that? How?
Okay, thank you. Uh, we're almost done actually, and I thought I can bring up a lot of things here yet, But just going back to the article, as practitioners of Buddhism, we are taught that everybody knows this one. Sakyamuni Buddha was Prince Siddhartha, was born to real persons. And once he attained enlightenment, he clearly taught us with, this is from the book, exceptional is an awakening. This exceptional is, I hope it doesn't refer to the Diamond Sutra, which our friend Carlos had difficult understanding it. I haven't read it, so I don't know. But can provide us with all the practical answers we need to know about life and the universe. Buddha never offered salvation, but instead taught us that each is responsible for their actions, that the law of karma determines what a person's life can be. Instead of asking a divine intervention, Buddha encourages us to take refuge in the triple gem, in the Buddha to attain wisdom, in the Dharma to practice the acts of, and in the Sangha to do them with the purity of intention and integrity of purpose. Instead of requesting for heavenly help, the Buddha emphasized the teaching, rely on the self, rely on the Dharma, and rely on nothing else. I guess that ends my presentation, and we still can continue. We have exactly about 6 minutes before 9:30.
Yes, thank you very much, Joe. Maybe Master Chi can add something before we end.
I don't have much to add because Sir Jose already shared quite a lot, especially about the folk belief in Philippines, which is very interesting. Maybe some of the Filipino you also don't know. Like I think you also don't know the belief that he shared. The picture, maybe we see the picture before, but we don't know what is that. Even the photo that Sir Jose shared with us, the one believe Rizal is the son of the god. I think maybe it's really a first time for me to see. So that means this group of people, they believe in reincarnations. So I think there are a lot of mixture between the god, between the folk belief and the major or the main religions that we can see in the world. Like this picture that Sir Jose shared, this one, and also about the pastor. So I think that is a little bit like the Tibetan Buddhism. They also not really emphasize, but they also quite a lot of people believe on this ones. So, and also the topic that we discussed about how long is couples, like Jerome mentioned, do not bother how long or how far. When we will reach there, maybe we have to taking care the current that is between the belief. So I think that is what really the Buddhas want to teach us or share with us. When the beginning, when I read the life of the Buddha, I get shocked because I know that the Buddhism is not is not the kind of a religion like the deities. It's not for belief. But how come the beginning is saying that the Buddha was born in where? From where? The mother, not from the stomach, but it's from
Her side.
Yes, that is number one. And number two, when he just born, then he can walk. He even can speak. Then after that, then become the baby again. That is kind of the deities, or he really cannot believe in this one. So I think, but of course I do some research, and some of the majority of the scholar, they mentioned that there is one is because of the culture during the Buddha's born in the Indian times. That is what they believe in order to represent the purity or the honesty of the Buddha during the culture of the Indian times, and also why he can walk. Of course, there is a little bit legend, but why? And when he walks, there's a lotus flower was blossom and all this. I read two types of report about this one. Number one is mentioned that because of the compassions of the Buddha, so he don't want when he walk, he don't want the the ants, the small insects that on the ground been affected by him, because when he step on the gardens, there may be a lot of insects will be stepped by him and it die. So there's a compassion of him. Then there's another report about this one is they just want to represent to be a symbol that is the Buddha was so pure and clean. So that's why we have the lotus flowers so that he will not touch when he step on the ground, he will not touch the ground. So there are different kind of I cannot say it's really kind of reality or reason, but at least we show that why this mixture of the legend is because of during the Indians, that's because of the Indian culture during the times. So that is how we come back to here. But of course, there is part of legends story, but the most important is about the teachings of the Buddha. In the book, it always like Weber Master singing very highlighted that is Buddha is human. It's real human, and until now we also can see a lot of discovery of the document or the sutra or the kind of heritage that been lived, and you really can find the place even though 2,500 years or even 600 years ago. So I think the most important is more on the reality and also more on the teachings of the Buddha. But I think it's really very much information for Sir Jose to compare so many religions about the deities. Thank you very much for tonight.
Thank you, Safo. So even if we sometimes see the Buddha as an image, the important thing is to learn and understand his teaching, because that's how the Buddha can help us. The image cannot help us. So any last words for Master Yolin before we do our dedication of merits?
Maybe just to announce, next week we have a Venerable Tzu. We haven't met her before. So next
Another
week
special
topic is
guest.
awakening. So next week is on Wednesday. And then I want to ask also if you are okay on in July the first week, we have this study group on Thursday. It's actually a request by the Venerable Tzu Kwan. She will lead, but she's only free on Thursday. Are you all okay on Thursday? Same time, only one day.
Yeah, we'll just make an announcement because it was unfortunate that Venerable Chekwan to Safo
Tzu Kwan.
has to adjust her schedule. It was booked already, but she has to move. So we'll move, not next week, huh? The week after pa. Okay, next week is still Wednesday.
Yes. Okay.
Okay,
So
so
It's just for 1 week. It's just for one meeting.
yes, just one week the time.
Joe, you can stop your sharing so I can share my screen.
Okay. Sorry. Okay.
Okay, so palm join for the dedication of merits. you. Thank you. So please turn on your video for picture. Okay, anyone else wants to turn on your video? Okay, smile, 1, 2, 3. Okay, lotus flower. 1, 2, 3. Thank you very much. Mitofo.
Thank you. Good night. See you
Thank
on next
you.
Wednesday.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, I
Ami
sent it to my
Tofo,
boss.
thank you.
Night,
I took a
everyone.
screenshot. I was able to send it to my boss's line account. Oh my gosh. Not my keep memo line, message. Good night. Thank you so much.
Night. Thank you. Good night.
Good night.